Martin! Martin! If you must eat yogurt in the booth, can you please not do it with a pen lid? These aren't the last days of Rome.
Which one do we have here? Christ. Oh, the cowboy thing. Right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony Muse Firkin, and I've been a director now for some 46 to 15 years. And this is my 1960, I believe, episode of Bonanza, which I co-directed with my good friend Alan Bennett. I was hoping to have little Alan with me here, or Alan the Pussy Crusher Bennett, as he likes to be known in his more braggadocious moans. Sat here with me today, but I believe he saw a special offer at Farm Foods and just couldn't resist. C'est la vie. Now, some of you will be left unaware of my televisual work, but as a fresh-faced and lean-of-thigh young man, I travelled to the colonies to try and make my mark. There I was very lucky to meet and befriend the actor Peter Falk, who saw the spunk gleaming within me and managed to get me through some wonderful doors and onto the set of Bonanza. Now, this little tomfoolery was marvellous to film. Hoss there, very controversial scene at the time. A semi-naked man had never been seen on American television. Now, Hoss, in reality, the actor, whose name escapes me, was utterly bald, from foot-knuckle to pate. In the end, we had to painstakingly glue on every single hair in the scene, much to his chagrin. The comedic timing and genius really shining through from Alan there. Good old Peter Falk, a marvellous friend in those early days. Such a giving man and such a fantastic attitude. Ever the optimist, he really was a glass eye full kind of guy. The famous introduction, filmed just outside Chessington World of Adventure by the second unit, if I recall correctly. Lorne insisted his introduction was placed into the opening twice. A bit of a diva, old Lorne, but a delightful man. Of course, in his later years, he famously married Ray Parker Jr. of Ghostbusters fame. I do believe Lorne was invited to cameo in the 2016 soft reboot, but thankfully he had died several years earlier. A delightful little scene here. I can't say I knew much of the old, wild, cowboy, west old genre, but with the script this tight, it was very difficult to go wrong. The actress in the scene, wonderful lady, I think. I recall Alan discovering her playing bongos in a nearby tiki bar, and cast her right away. But that's all. That's Alan all over. He can't keep his eye off some bongos. Not real champagne in this scene, of course. The budget simply wouldn't countenance it. So in the end we settled with apple juice mixed with Barocca, which seemed to work fine. Hoss enjoying his first taste of the high life as he courts this fine young lady. The actor, of course, nothing like his bumbling salt-of-the-earth character. Indeed, I remember him playing bassoon on set most days, and between takes was forever embroidering his favourite Veruca sock. Such fun. Delightful transition there. Very much Gone with the Wind meets Samurai Cop. Yes. Here our happy band travel out to the wild, wild west frontier lands to partake in the traditional activity of gathering dung for the fire and eating raw potatoes. I think it was around this time Alan introduced me to ketamine, it being the 60s. He had sold it to me as a pick-me-up, and after the long hours on set, I considered it a perfect flip. He is directly responsible therein for my subsequent addiction, multiple divorces, mental breakdown, night terrors, and career meltdown. Still, Alan remains a good friend, and I certainly don't harbour any ill will. For example, if he was to be crushed by falling masonry, or caught within the tireless grinding mechanism of a threshing machine, I would, of course, be very, very sad about that. I certainly wouldn't will that upon him, or his family. We don't show it in this scene here, but it's very heavily implied that after Hoss follows the young lady, they engage in violent, violent lovemaking. It's all in the subtext.
I'd like to speak to your father alone for a moment.
The great Lorne here in his first scene, wonderful presence on screen. His eyes are just so there, in the very front of his face, and not a lot of actors can say that about themselves. I recall directly after my stint on Bonanza, I was asked to direct the detective show Cause of Death, Murder, and very much wanted Lorne for the lead role of the paleontologist and erstwhile detective Buck Diamante, but sadly he had made commitments to a theatrical run of Oklahoma in Guam, I believe. Very sad. The show, by the way, was Cause of Death, the punctuation mark, : murder. Not a series dedicated to murdering someone via colon. That would have been limited in a series and be somewhat grotesque. Universal's backlot there. In actuality, the set is permanent, as are all the extras, living as they do within the fantasy of the Wild West 24 hours a day, in case anything needs to be filmed. I believe it leads to some madness, but art comes at a price. And here we begin the reveal of our young lady's gambling addiction. Again, in all my work, I love to push boundaries. Gambling addiction was not something easily addressed within US television. Yes, I Love Lucy had deftly dealt with the intense trauma of wrapping chocolates on a production line, but we were the first to really take on something as taboo head on. Alan was oddly interested in the machine we use in the scene. Indeed, he became quite obsessed with its design and making it fully functional. Curious at the time, but I put it down to his dedication to the craft and the heroic quantity of Spanish fly coursing through his veins. Later, of course, it was revealed via leaked FBI papers that Alan was manufacturing the machines and illegally selling them to Cuba. Very surprising and somewhat distressing. I think it was only a few months after this aired, actually, that Alan vanished to avoid criminal charges. There were rumours of his whereabouts, of course, but I don't think anyone was very surprised when he finally resurfaced living in Thora Heard's back bedroom. Little known fact, not a single actor within Bonanza can actually ride a horse. It was a series of complex wires and composite shots that made the illusion possible, hence the overuse of long shots such as here. Anytime you see an actor in a close-up riding, the horse is usually a pair of carefully camouflaged crew members on all fours. A little glimpse behind the curtain, there. Now, this scene was added late into the day. The studio executives had seen my rework of the original scene, wherein Hoss, nervous about his impending marriage, gets tipsy and wanders around the homestead like a drunken elephant seal and crashes into a hat stand while mumbling something about tinned potatoes. And instead, they had substituted it for the slightly more delicate two-hander you see here. And I was fine with it. I think they woefully exaggerated how I responded in the police report. And anyway, the guns on set only ever fired blanks, so little to no damage was actually caused. I was fine with it. As we head into the wild, wild west cowboy climax, we see the gambling addiction finally take over our delightful young lady, and the price she must pay. I'm very proud of this scene, the tension, the foreboding that builds in the game as it unfolds before our disbelieving eyes. I see similar shades of this scene in other works. I'm thinking Casino by little Marty Scorsese. I'm thinking Godfellas. I'm thinking Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. But imitation is truly the most sincerest form of flattery. Unless it's plagiarism, Martin. Then I'll come down on you like a gallon of hot magma. Just a friendly warning. Yes, anyway. Here Hoss is finally disillusioned with his betrothed-to-be and sees the real menace of a gambling tyranny, lashing out in the only way his tiny, behatted mind can understand. We had planned a heartfelt speech from Hoss here, but the actor had shocked us all that morning by immediately becoming a Trappist monk, and subsequently taking a vow of silence. We quickly reworked the script, and I think we managed to get away with it without really impacting the story too badly. It turned out his very rapid conversion was due to a misheard remark on a tax avoidance scheme, so he was quickly back to normal. Well, that was my 1960 episode of Bonanza, and I think we can all agree, undoubtedly, a highlight of my career. Right. Alexa, call Alan Bennett! Alexa, call Alan Bennett! Alexa! Oh, he sent me a text. Oh. Martin! Martin! Do we want a king prawn ring? No? Yeah, your loss.